Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome back. This is MAHWISH Ahmed in another session in which we are going to be discussing today the don'ts of the history paper. Earlier we explored together what we need to take care of in the paper and what we can do in the paper, and today we are going to explore what we cannot do in the history paper 2059/01, paper 1 of Pakistan Studies. Why is this important to know? This is important to know because these are some core elements which may land you in hot water. It may disqualify your paper, or at worst it may lead to marks deduction, which is also not something that any one of the candidates who is attempting the question would like. So let's come and look at that. The first one, do not attempt an untidy paper. Now I know all of you are doctors and tend to have a scribbling handwriting that tends to drift away and get away in oblivion. Well, it's very, very important that your handwriting is legible. I understand not every one of us can produce a neat paper, but a neat handwriting, but what every one of us can produce is a neat paper. Meaning avoid extra or unnecessary cutoffs, unnecessary pen rectifications. Of course, I understand there are no correction fluids allowed in the paper. So keep a pencil with you. In case you make an error, one nice cut. Trust me, that one nice cut is much neater than scribbled or scrawled out pen rectifications. So please avoid that, because an illegible handwriting is an automatic 0. It is the benefit of doubt rests with the examiner, that if he or she would not be able to understand your handwriting, they would not be marking that part of the answer. Then, CAIE does not mark in points. For history paper, we go into whole number markings, meaning either it's a 0 on 3 or it's a whole number on 3, 1 on 3, 2 on 3, 3 on 3, or 5 marker is a complete 5. We don't go into point marking like 4.5 or 3.5. We don't, because we have clear-cut reasons that we assess and then we give marks for. So point marking is more applicable where you have more technical marking like mathematics. In history, it does not work like that. So CAIE does not mark in points. Then, in the previous video, we discussed that answers need to be in paragraph forms. So that means no bullets, no numbers, no columns, no 1, 2, 3, 4, no classification, no columns like that, weaknesses, strengths, nothing like that. If you need to talk about a certain point, you will talk about it in one paragraph, and if you need to change your reason or change your point, you can talk about it in the next paragraph. A lot of you are in the habit of learning history. How many of you have actually learned Harry Potter? None of you. How many of you have actually learned McDonald's delivery number? None of you. But all of you know it. Why do you know it? Because it constantly repeats itself. It constantly repeats itself on the television, on different forms of media. So just like that, read the history textbooks or the topics that you're prescribed. You do not, that's number one rule, you do not learn history because answers need not memorized. They encourage you to write answers in your own words and from your own understanding, because a lot of the answers require an analytical mindset for you to decipher what went wrong in history, why did it go wrong, or why do you think this point was the reason of a failure, why do you think that point was the reason of the success. So a lot of it has to come from your own understanding and your own mindset and your own knowledge. So it's best that you only read thoroughly the textbook or the topics or the notes that you've made for yourself. Do not learn them, because none of the questions in history come where you need to learn and write anything. Candidates also need not write long and lengthy answers. That's a very stereotypical way of doing history papers, the one that probably your parents did long time ago. But in Cambridge, you can start or plunge in the answer right away from where it asks. Even if it's a 10 or 14 marker, say for instance about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Why did he start Aligarh movement? You do not need to explore biological details of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. You do not need to start a paragraph where Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was born, what year, etc., etc. No, you can plunge in straight into the why from the first line of your answer. And you can talk about the three main whys that we have of Aligarh movement. So that's the beauty of the answer, and that's why we have, a lot of you complain we have only 90 minutes in the paper, and a lot of you find it a short duration. Well, this is why you find it short, because a lot of you are writing unnecessary data, irrelevant data in 10 and 14 markers. Avoid that. Also, exact date of event. Salt March took place on 12th March 1930. If you can remember, cool. If you can't, you don't need to. Exactly. Salt March took place in early 1900s. That's a cool statement too, because it delivers the era when the Salt March took place. Doesn't matter, it doesn't reveal the exact date. Because in case, why do I not encourage my students to learn exact dates? Because in case you make an error, then the examiner has it in their power to deduct your marks over there. So, if you can't remember that Shah Waliullah was precisely born in 1703, just write Shah Waliullah was born in the 18th century, and that's enough. So that's the beauty, that you can stick to the decade, you can stick to the century, and you can also draft your answer. Also, it's a history paper, so it's best that you do put in years where necessary, where there is relevance of the year, but you can put the century or the decade like this too. For more such things, visit and come join us at gethikma.com, where I'll be waiting for more such tips for you. Thank you and see you next time.